Hello, name's Anand, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today I got yet another one of those not super different but still quite special runs for you. Starting with two starter relics, being one regular relic and one run modifier, which is a cursed relic from outside of the game. I don't have too much to say about this one, so I'd say let's get right into it. Today's build is called Makeshift Crowd Control, a combination of our second starter Relics name, as well as the general ability type and the run goal that we are going to try and use/fulfill. The build idea here is that we're going to be having a lot more room to work with, generally, and we're going to have to rely on using very strong abilities that can clear out a large variety of enemies, that can keep them at bay, far away from you, kill them all, and that are very easily reusable, that don't so much require you to stand still to cast an Aqua Beam, for example, for a few seconds. No, these are just quickly chug it, has a large impact on the entire room, preferably, and then we can reuse it with the power of cooldown reduction, and it's gonna be just as impactful on single targets as it's going to be on multi-targets, or even just an entire crowded room with a mini-boss inside of it, for example. So very reliable, sturdy ability use is gonna be the theme of this one. And for my build, I decided to run with the fire and the water elements, as I am very accustomed to them, and I feel like they are very solid. Water is very solid at controlling groups, especially with the frozen debuff, or the frozen status effect rather, and fire is very powerful at destroying entire rooms, especially adding on to your damage dealt with the on fire or the burn status effect. Let's get right into the build, shall we? For our rope, we're going to be running the Venture Rope, which decreases our max health by 200 from 500 all the way down to 300, but therefore increases both our damage, run speed, and cooldown reduction by 10% each. Very powerful, as this is essentially twice the damage increase that a regular rope otherwise would grant you. It increases your base damage, which is fantastic when trying to finish off enemies more consistently, and decreases your cooldown reduction, meaning that you can use your crowd control abilities much more frequently for different situations, so you can not only use them for large groups of enemies, which is usually the most efficient purpose. No, instead you can also use them for single target damage altogether, and that just allows for a lot more potential playmaking. Essentially a double damage increase, as I said, and very helpful, especially into bosses too. But we will see that soon. Also, the run speed increase is not entirely worthless with this one, as we're going to be having a lot more room to work with. So, running around a lot more in circles around our enemies, waiting for our cooldowns to take down, hopefully much faster due to the innate cooldown reduction here. In case you didn't know, Venture Rope has a terrible upgrade. It merely increases all of these percentages by 5, not taking into account the decreased max health. It doesn't decrease the max health any further. It doesn't reduce the max health decrease either. You don't gain any health. It just ignores that stat entirely. It just simply increases the base damage, run speed, and cooldown reduction by 5%, which is minute. It's barely ever worth it in my opinion. But if you do have the money, nothing better to spend it on, go ahead. Do it. Moving on to our starting relic. This is also closely tied to our second starter relic, which we will get to in a minute. Just wait a hot minute. It is a miscellaneous item that I've never used as a starter relic. It's one of these three which forbid a certain type of enemy, or rather two certain types of enemies, to enact any special attacks. For example, an elemental enemy is not going to be able to use any elemental attacks. They're just going to be able to run at you and use the default move scheme of the regular version of that enemy. For example, a regular knight instead of the elemental knight. They're still going to have more damage and more health, but generally they won't be able to use any abilities. So you can pick two different types of enemies. I decided to run the Conqueror's Cloak as my starting relic here. All mages and summoners have their spells limited. Only one Conqueror relic can be an effect at a time. So you can pick mages and summoners, rogues and archers, or knights and lancers, whichever you struggle most with. To me, it's definitely gotta be summoners. Mages generally not pose a huge threat by any means, but summoners in large, crowded rooms are just a pain in the ass to deal with. Alternatively, I would have probably run Knights and Lances just because I really don't like things like the Fire Knight shield, which repels me when I run into them and then gets me interrupted in the middle of a melee attack, or Lances that jump on top of me, or that cast attacks like the Water Lancer, which chase me down over a rather large distance, which is quite hard to avoid, and then freezes me and so on. Like, I really don't like these either. I don't think rogues and archers are that huge of an issue, as we're not going to be encountering more archers. Otherwise, I would absolutely advocate for picking this, because archers are a pain in the dick. Regardless of the element, they can easily get you stun locked more easily, much more easily than any of these others. To me, I probably picked the worst one, mages and summoners. Mages almost never pose a threat to any build. But summoners, generally speaking, they can deal a lot of damage to you. They can be very annoying to deal with. And I just would rather not deal with any elemental summoners. I just dislike them. Why are we picking one of these relics? Because, again, we're going to be having to deal with large groups of enemies all by ourselves. Because here's the kicker. Let's move on to our second starter relic real quick. Just a little bit of a preview, eh? This might take a while. As you might know, there are only 4 relics on display there every single time, and you have to reset the room entirely to get to see 4 new ones. There is no reset mechanic baked into the game, unfortunately. We are going to be using the Makeshift Bridge as our starter relic, which gets rid of all of the pits in the game. Pits no longer appear in rooms and hallways. This is a huge upside to someone who's entirely new to the game, i.e. someone who hasn't learned yet how to maneuver pits, that you can pretty much never fall into them if you do it properly, and that you can abuse the ever-living fuck out of them by shoving enemies into them continuously, constantly, pretty much whenever you can, and that certain Arcana are incredibly strong because they do so by themselves. But for us, as a professional who loves abusing those mechanics, this is gonna be quite the issue. Not having pits means we're gonna have to actually deal with enemies, with large threats like stompers, like summoners, like rogues, and huge groups of slimes and so on. So, yikes, man. That's why we are trying to mitigate a lot of that overhead right away, using our first starter relic, Conqueror's Cloak, as well as a high damage, high versatility, high crowd control build. So yeah, let's move on to the Arcana here, shall we? For our starter relic, what? For a basic Arcana, of course, we're gonna be running the Flame Strike, which is a melee ability with quite a large range. It is essentially a cleave, it's a charged ability, so typically it has essentially 3 sub-abilities to it, or 3 hits to it, 3 consecutive hits to it, like so. The third of which is just a lot larger, as is tradition in this game, and deals a lot more damage. Also, when enhanced, the third hit, or the final hit rather, destroys enemy projectiles. It's very good for that. Very, very good. You really want to enhance this as early on as possible. And also burns enemies for slightly extra damage in crowd control. It's very nice. You can also easily tap this as a quick stun for enemies, like so. You don't always have to charge it, and as with most charged abilities in the game, you can retarget the charged part, like so. Just redirect it before you get to charge it. You have to be rather fast, and this is not very applicable to many situations, but you might find yourself in a situation where this becomes useful knowledge. It deals very good damage. Generally, it's just great for crowd control, and that's what we're going to be using it for. Both of those, in fact. For our dash, we're going to be running Frost Feint, one of my favorite dashes in the game. It's quite versatile, it goes with a lot of different builds, and quite frankly, it is just a crowd control / utility tool. So you dash forth and you leave behind a frozen decoy, which counts as an entity, like a second player. So as long as this is closer to enemies, they will focus it, because that's how the AI in this game works. AI just focuses whatever is the closest, whether it be a friendly AI like a summon, or just a regular enemy, or a boss. The bosses can see through your charade and instead go for you. the player instead of the decoy. This decoy has a set expiration, or rather a set duration. It has a rather short duration. It is mainly used to bait enemies to walk towards it, and then when it expires or is hit by a single attack, it will pop. It will explode in a very small area around it. The radius is not exactly visible, but it will do that, then deal a small chunk of damage and freeze enemies nearby, like so. It has 2 charges right at the get-go, so you can use it quite frequently. It has also a very short cooldown, and I love putting more charges on this one. It's very useful, and when enhanced, it also places a decoy not only in the initial dash start location, but also in the dash destination. So always 2 decoys on use, twice the value, technically. Realistically, all enemies that you want to pull will group up around the first decoy and then just get frozen there while the second is expiring, not hitting anyone. But oh well, it's just very nice for crowd control. It also deals great damage considering what it does and that it has 2 charges. Really, regarding that, it does have great damage. It is not typically a spell that is used to deal damage though. It is used to cover large distances and make enemies group up, while I can then charge my attack to finish them off all together. So I do this, charge it up off screen so I don't unfreeze them immediately, or even on screen if they are already frozen, and then just burst them down. Or I can combine it with my next ability. My standard is going to be the Creeping Tendrils melee ability. This is a very short range dash, like so. When it doesn't connect, it's just that. When it does connect to an enemy, which is not super easy, it applies sort of a debuff. So these tendrils that will fling around them a bunch and just do this, damaging them for every round, for every second that this ability is on the enemy. Besides looking a little goofy, enveloping enemies in tendrils or encasing them, I'm not sure what the the right verb here is. Besides hentai-ing our enemies in tendrils, in watery tendrils of doom, these tendrils also split the ability. Sorry, they spread the ability. Whenever the tendril rotating or orbiting around this target here touches another enemy, this ability spreads from the initial target to the enemy, like so. I know it's very hard to see there, but all of them have the debuff applied immediately because I hit all of them with a dash. Let's look at this right here. Doesn't that just look goofy as shit? So this can easily hit an entire room worth of enemies. You always still want to prefer grouping enemies up before using this, not just using it like this and then blindly relying on this to work out, because the tendril only works one way, as you can tell right there. It doesn't keep going once it connects with another target. The tendril is only ever on the currently last hit target of this ability, I should put it. It can spread 2 ways. So when I put it on one target, it's not gonna go up and down, it's just gonna go one way. Whatever target it hits first, and then the tendril is gonna go around this one and never hit any of these 2 down here, for example. Right, just an example, so you understand how this ability works. Generally, just climb up enemies, dash into them, and deal a bunch of damage to them. Again, single target damage. Single targets, this is not that bad either, as it just keeps spinning around them, regardless of how many other targets you hit. 64 damage right there. Not sure I crit there, but that was quite a lot of damage from an ability that otherwise seems a little underwhelming. This is essentially your go-to crowd control tool, along with your signature, which we will get to next. But first, when we enhance this beautiful ability, which we also really like doing, the tendrils spin faster, meaning they spread faster too, and they apply damage faster, and deal more damage. A double damage increase? Count me the fuck in. I love this. This is the first upgrade we are gonna get. It's mandatory, you really, really want to have this. Other than that, both of these other upgrades are also fantastic. So aim to get those. As I said already, your Robe upgrade is pretty much useless either way. So you don't have to keep any spare money open for potentially finding the cloth maker there. Now moving on to our signature, yet another high damage, but also at the same time crowd control tool. It's going to be Blazing Lariat, the Wheel of Fire. You become a spinning wheel of fire. As simple as that. When enhanced, aka your signature, this has a huge range, otherwise it would be quite tiny. Hits pretty much an entire room, deals pretty good damage, knocks enemies away from you. It can be used as a movement tool while dealing damage too. I like doing this. Next to bosses, they pretty much always fail to hit me during this, as the movement is very inconsistent. It's sort of like a dash, but also not really. Just look at that double slide. It looks smooth as hell, burns enemies, it just deals great damage, doesn't destroy projectiles unfortunately, but when using the signature, it shoots the wheel forward, and it goes nuts. Yeah, I really like it. Not much to be said here, I just really like the ability, I think it's very, very strong. Okay, so with all that out of the way, this build is rather uncomplicated, so let's get into the build specifics, shall we? For your intended build playstyle, or rather my intended build playstyle, I haven't given it too much of a thought here, since I haven't played this build exactly. I don't think you can be hyper aggressive with this one, because I'll take the average wave-based room. There's waves of enemies coming at you one by one. What you're gonna do is quite simple. Just get into a corner, wait for them to climb up, and then finish them off. That's it. It's a rather defensive, strategic playstyle, in my opinion. You can be hyper-aggressive and just run through rooms and ignore them entirely, because all you really need to finish the run with this build is a little bit of extra damage and a little bit of extra health, or healing, or armor, whatever effectively grants you extra health, extra hit points, will get you there. You should be rather defensive. You can be offensive with this one. I wouldn't blame you. These abilities are very versatile. They can be used for both purposes, offensive and defensive, especially your standard, especially your signature. So let's swiftly move on to the potential problems. I don't particularly see any problems here beside the low initial max HP, so if you overcommit with something like a double trouble, you're going to be in trouble. The elements can be a little bit of an issue. You're not exactly trying to freeze or burn enemies, though. You don't have to rely on those status effects by any means, so don't worry. Worry not, child, about the water nor the fire dungeon, even though you deal less damage there. You should probably worry more about the water dungeon, as you don't have anything that is effective against water, but water isn't particularly difficult for you. Even though this is a melee build, it's a melee build with a rather huge range, hitting entire rooms, so don't be afraid of being frozen either, as long as you're not stun locked by a thief, or by an archer, or by, well, a freeze status effect, or poison status effect, and then actually surrounded by a bunch of enemies while being stun locked. You're gonna be good to go. Otherwise, again, if you are stun locked, you might just end up dying. You only have 300 HP. A thief combo of, like, say 2 thieves hitting you at the same time can easily chunk for 200 plus HP. Easily. Absolutely easily. No issues whatsoever. So you gotta be wary of that and just not let that happen. If you do let it happen, it's fine. You'll die, most likely. It happens. Happens to everybody sometimes. And now, finally, from my favorite section here, recommended items in Arcana. I like everything that increases the damage. All of these abilities are melee, so something like a Dark Katana tripling my crit chance would be fantastic with clearing out enemies. Generally speaking, I love a little bit of extra cooldown reduction, so I can use especially my signature and the creeping tendrils more often, as these deal very high damage together. For the same reason, I love base damage increases. Absolutely fantastic with the tendrils. This is a debuff essentially that enemies, like bosses, cannot cleanse. They just keep taking damage while they are trying to attack you. It's fantastic. You just quickly chuck this in while they are in the middle of their combo, and they keep taking damage. And it has a rather short cooldown too, so you can use it again shortly after. It's fantastic. Really, really want to do that. And other than that, I just like using very strong abilities to finish off a run even more quickly. Abilities like Tearing Whirlwind and help with crowd controlling a room, just grouping things up. Abilities like Jumps with a huge AoE, like Thunder Drop, like Airborne Slam. They are fantastic for dealing damage and for being defensive tools into bosses, but also giving you iframes generally, so you can just jump through attacks without taking any damage due to having invincibility frames. It's fantastic. I love Permafrost Bulwark with this. It is a melee build, so Permafrost is my go-to support Arcana, but also damage, but also evasion Arcana. It is my go-to Arcana. Period. You can evade everything you want, you can break free from it whenever you want. It has a rather long duration, hefty chunk of damage, and it's of the water element, so it stacks up nicely with your already here elements. Also, a thing that should be mentioned, since you're running water and fire initially here, things like the one cursed item that increases your fire damage but lowers all other damage dealt are viable. They are viable, even though you should probably get the counterpart first, so you don't just reduce your water damage. Because when they combine, they increase both your water and your fire damage, which is fantastic. Ebonwolf's Cloak, not viable here, because it reduces the water damage. You really like dealing damage with the Tendril. The Frost Feint you really don't care about. Your basic you don't care about a lot. So you want water and fire for both your standard and your signature. And then having been said, let's get right into the run. I don't have a lot of time here. Let's try and dodge Freya. Yes, let's go. Thunder Twins, that is kind of annoying, but then shoot to finish it all off. That should be rather easy with the fire abilities, the fire affixes. Now, at least visually, it is quite weird to not have pits around. To spread the damage evenly there so I could finish both of them off at the same time. No Arcana upgrade here right away. That is a bummer. That's a huge issue. There is a Seismic Slam in there, which is a jump, so it's nice and meaty build, and it would help a lot with the Thunder Dungeon. I am already considering grabbing that. Keep in mind, you don't have projectile destruction yet. Not quite, anyway. We are gonna acquire some soon, hopefully. They can't resist the Tendrils. Okay. Oh, come on. He knocked the other guy out of the decoys. I'm trying to use the decoy for damage, occasionally. But it's not super strong for that. You can't detonate it manually. You are relying on it expiring or on enemies proccing it for you. Right, you can see the pits are sealed shut here. Always recognize that corridor with the torches there. It means that there is a knight standing inside of it. It's a subtle warning, but... Did I not get frozen there? I thought these can freeze. Apparently not, they just damage. Cool. He's still alive, but we don't care much. Let's grab this. We could grab a Midas helmet, but we don't care a lot about armor. Let's just move on here. Very unfortunate that we couldn't manage to find any Arcana upgrades here right away. Seismic Slam is neat, but I would much prefer being able to upgrade everything I got here right away instead. So hopefully ours is going to be nice. At least on this stage. Attack through the wall there, as this is one of many come on, one of many abilities that is thick enough to punch through walls, rather wide enough. Nothing, just money and gems. That's okay. Fine by me. Did retarget the blast there. Again, as aforementioned, that's a mechanic you rarely ever need to use, but for that type of situation, it's nice. Right there as well. I did retarget it diagonally as to hit both of them because I miscalculated the initial hit. Shove them into the decoy. Failed doing that probably, but that's fine. Freeze both of them. Okay. Frost Feint upgrade for 150G. I'd rather not. I said Fiend again. I keep struggling with the name. It's called Frost Feint, not Fiend. No upgrade yet again. And these Arcana are much worse for me. That's no good. That is really no good. Crema early on is also very much not helpful. I'm gonna grab these Spell Thieves for dodging power. And leave it at that. We are suffering from a sufficient damage deficit right now, due to the lack of upgrades so far. Both the lack of upgrades as well as strong items. Come on, give me some good. Nothing. Alright. I don't really want any of these. I might take the boots, so I don't have to... Yeah, that way I won't even find the Frost Feint upgrade, which is quite helpful because then I won't have to wait another floor for my potential Water Tendril upgrade. Also, they lower the cooldown, which is quite neat, as this prematurely, or I don't know how to put this. I guess I just prioritize using it as a utility ability over a damage ability. So I don't really care about it being enhanced, but I do really care about lowering its cooldown, specifically its cooldown. Ha ha ha, very funny. Go fuck yourself. You corrupted Iris. How dare you. Trying to make the decoy stick. Oh yeah, oh. Guess I must have stood still for slightly too long. I love the Spell Thief socks. I can play so much more aggressively with those in my inventory. Very nice pickup. The third dynamo, of course, way too late here, but thanks for the lightning. It's gonna be entirely useless on this one. group them up like so, because this is actually an AoE ability, technically, if you use it properly. Robe upgrade. Nothing exciting, I will take it though, if I am not presented with any better opportunities here. I need alternatives. Ooh, the fact that there are no pits in here. I'm really used to just hitting them inside of the pits. Or into the pits, rather, sorry. At least they won't have any abilities, right? So that's great. Just regular old summoners. Just AoE them down and dash along, because they might teleport a lot, and that way you prevent them from ever reaching you. Instead, they will go for the decoys and immediately be frozen. Don't you just love it? I certainly do. Hello everyone. Spell Thieves are great, just keep rocking them, keep using abilities. I didn't mention, but of course the Spell Thieves stack up nicely with the Grease Boots. Cooldown reduction on my dash means I can use it a lot more frequently, meaning a lot more movement speed from the Spell Thief songs, from using abilities. Still no upgrade. Oh my god, this is getting ridiculous. And still pretty much completely garbage items. 99 charges on this dash. Not helpful at all, thank you. Should I get the revive? I'll get the glass card instead. Oh yeah, just look at that. Damn, that signature charge generation is out of this world so far. Wallet, so I can buy more useless stuff. Fantastic. I am gonna grab the Sandy shoes too, just for a little bit of extra evasion. I might want to farm some gold here, but now with the wallet, I don't think I will have to. Gas kite just means I can tank the next 5 hits without taking damage, which I believe could come in handy, considering I am rushing here and I don't have a lot of damage. And neither do I have a lot of health. Careful there. I don't like backing off too much. And I don't have projectile destruction currently, so... Kind is just wasted money, you might argue, but... Here I am to tell you that I'm lazy, and I don't want to dodge projectiles right now. Should be having like one more kite charge. I missed it. Oh, apparently... Oh, no. It was the last one. Oh, I gotta be more careful now. Yeehaw, cowboy. Use my AoE abilities. Oh, where did you come from? Hey, Taffy. This might be the only chance I'll ever get to kill you, due to the signature there. Anyone in there? Not yet. Does use all the AoEs that I got. Now the Volt Pinball actually does hit the entirety of the room, pretty much. Or can at least do that. Time it. Hit all of them. I don't have projectile destruction yet, so I just kind of gotta power through this. Hit the entire room there. Wait. Tendril. Just bail. Hit the room. Shit. Use the decoys as blockers. Living buddies. What is the term again? Flashback? Flash wall? No. Is it a flash wall? It's a meat shield, right? Meat shield. Water damage, more damage for more items. That's great. Destroy stuff with melee basic Arcana, so I won't have to upgrade it. I'm not getting that right away, but if I can find my upgrade here, this is pretty much the same. Pretty much has the same effect as upgrading this, but it's slightly more expensive. Sandals I need, so I won't take as much damage, but I don't think I'll be running them. Abacus is also really nice. The more stuff I kill, the more cooldown reduction I receive. So I can just clear rooms a lot more easily, but I'm pretty much done with the run here. I'm only missing the third dungeon. I don't think I'll be needing the Abacus as long as I can sufficiently increase my base damage. Or reasonably, I should say. Keeping Tendrils. Yes. So that means I'm gonna be getting this to destroy projectiles. I don't have a revive item. Just evasion on low health. Just burst them down. Okay. Guess I will get it. Right, on to the next boss. Plenty of feeling, thank you very much. I am just breezing through so far. Gonna keep the pinball and the Lariat. Okay. Just in case they spawn their annoying minions. I was gonna commit there. The Dragon Surge. Nice. Another water spell, so if I do find a Royal Flush, I'm gonna get slightly more damage. Helpful. I like it. I do still prefer using the Dynamo, or the Dynamo, how you pronounce that word. I've never really understood. Since it has a lot of AoE potential, well, I can control the Drake, and I have multiple charges of this. I can use it for single target damage as a finisher as well. Oh, these look like planks. Interesting. I've never seen these before. I've seen the other ones. I hate this room. But just realistically, it's not gonna be a huge deal. Now, what the gloves also do, whereas with the upgrade of this ability, I would only be able to destroy projectiles on the final blast, I can now destroy projectiles on every single hit of this ability. Oh, hi. Let's do this. Oh my god, die, please. Thank you. Let me out. Come here, boys. Spread the news, spread the tentacles. The cooldown reduction is out of this world so far. I really like it a lot. Not very useful items in here by any means. I do like the projectile destruction capabilities of the symbol, so that just means take less damage essentially. Whenever you hit, destroys any normal projectiles around your character, which is neat. For abilities that would be able to consecutively hit you, say it's an ability that is so long that you might travel through multiple segments of the ability, all hitting you. Oh, what a nuisance that would be. Abusing the gloves, very nice with this Arcana. Oh, did not mean to do that. Keep my distance to the dynamo. Oh my god, stop destroying my stuff. Dynamo. Just wanted to pull the elite out. Stun him, AK interrupt, and then finish him off. 63%. Damn, are we trying to finish floors now? Hell no. Get me out of here, man. Ha, hover over pits, you are funny, aren't you? The hummingbird feather. Okay, finally, a damage up. Luxury handbag would be quite handy. I do like that a lot. What do I toss? Probably this, because it's not super useful. For the record, Paranomassacon, in my opinion, is much better than the luxury handbag, because it doesn't really have a condition, you just take slightly more damage from all sources. I say slightly, it's not a slight damage increase, it's a huge damage increase actually, but generally not very noticeable when you just kill everything right away. Get the burn upgrade, the luxury handbag, and then just move on. We are done here, good sir. Moving on. That was a lot of damage dealt, almost 12,000, not mistaken, or did we even hit the 12k mark, I'm not sure. We might have hit it. Just use the pinball. Just ignore them, honestly, I got all the items I could ever need. Okay, Sanos Atband, the Curse Eaters is nice. I could supplement the Abacus with something else for boss clear. Done. Try again, boys. Thanks for that basic Arcana. I'll make sure to not use it ever. Thank you. They just love the decoys. They can't help it. Let me out. Huh, all of them died. Tendrils probably would have been enough for all of them. Just cancel the wheel there, I don't want to fight myself, blowing up some barrels up my own face. That was the wrong skill again. I do like using that. Can't really be concerned with human things like health. These issues mean nothing to me. I am immortal. I'm a god. I'm a god amongst men. I'm just trying to advocate. I can toss, absolutely, 100%. Instead, Sanos would be decent. Curse Eaters, I have 2 cursed items, so this is not super powerful. Knapsack would be okay. It's just a little bit of healing. Tiny, wee bit of healing. I'll grab the Sanos and an Arcana to heal back up. Anything trashy? Well, 150 is the cheapest one. Oh, I should have done that after the fight because not ideal. Slightly less damage due to the luxury handbag. Of course, that's not gonna be any kind of concern. Massive prescription, more healing. Oh, that's good. I like that. I'll keep the relic cart around, just in case, if I can. I don't think I can. Not really. I could get rid of Conquerors. It has served its purpose. There are pretty much no more mages coming up here, so might as well do that. Pick this back up for luxury handbag boost in damage, and then move on. Gonna keep the relic card just in case I find something really overpowering at the last stage. Something like a limited edition rope, for example, would be quite neat, or more realistically, a Kasim's Airy Cloak. That'd be fantastic. That's safe damage evasion. Kill. There we go. Easy. Nice and clean. Don't care about that. Get that shite out of here, man. I failed. I failed, Sensei. That was my projectile and I gave it all away. Come on, just die. Spam your dash everywhere. Nobody should be able to hit you. Get the entire room. Keep spamming stuff to keep up the speed boost. And there it is. You just have to ask kindly for it and the game will deliver. Boop. Thank you, Relic card. Definitely wouldn't have been affordable otherwise. Let's go. Should probably use the dragon here. It would be a lot more helpful with clearing out these shadow orbs. Exactly those. Let me out! Keep in mind, Kasim's is on a cooldown. Gonna use all my abilities that hit the arena in hopes of clearing out all the shadow orbs. It seems that I could, probably due to the pinball, I would guess. Not for where that dragon went, but GG. He died to a decoy. Oh yeah. That was a fun run. Very, very fun. I expected it to go no different, to be honest. Pits barely make it different. Pits are an essential part to my personal playstyle, but generally I did learn the game without using the power of pits. I wasn't aware of pits being that strong for the longest time. Until the point where I said to myself, I have to try Tearing Whirlwind now, because people praise it. People say that it's underwhelming, but that it's like super cool for room clear. And then I tried it and I fell in love with it. Absolutely. And I have never looked back. I just love pushing people into pits. It's such a satisfying feeling, especially when they jump in there voluntarily. I don't even have to make them. Like stompers. I just love that. When I learned that trick too, that was just mind-blowing. I loved it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you could enjoy today's run just as much as I did. This is certainly an incredibly fun build. I love the Creeping Tendrils. Such a good spell. I have always been wanting to make a build around this, and finally I did. Now, I feel like the Makeshift bridge actually is not a downside at all to this build. I feel like it is a huge upside for the Creeping Tendrils. Then I can just hit a lot more enemies. It just happens that just because pits are shut, they are sealed shut, doesn't mean that enemies spawn closer to one another. Doesn't mean that archers that would usually spawn on their separate plateaus, separated by a pit from the rest of the room, that they would spawn any closer to other enemies. So still, neither Creeping Tendrils nor Blazing Lariat are exactly super easy to consistently hit, because still enemies spawn apart quite far from apart. Far enough, definitely, usually, to not be able to connect the Creeping Tendrils, especially when it's archers. Archers tend to dash away from the character in order to shoot, so away from other enemies, away, out of the range of the Creeping Tendrils, if you could follow me here. Whereas the Lariat should be able to connect a lot more easily, just has a lot more coverage naturally. It doesn't require enemies to be close by. They have to be merely in a radius around your character, right? So it's about your positioning, whereas the Tendrils is more about the enemy positioning, I suppose. This is definitely not an issue for summoners, for mages, for thieves, for everyone else beside rangers pretty much, because all of those enemies tend to walk towards you, not away from you. And they generally tend to stand still or climb up in large groups of enemies or surround themselves in summons, for example. So Tendrils can connect with entire rooms there, but in the particular rooms where, say, there's like 2 rangers spawning on different sides of the arena or close by, close to one another but separate from a huge group of enemies, I find the Tendrils to be a little lackluster. Generally though, very fun ability, absolutely loved it. I would absolutely play this with a Makeshift bridge again. This, of course, referring to a Creeping Tendrils dedicated build. I did enjoy the ever-living fuck out of this one, as the kids say. Also, really liked the Flat Gauntlet. Obviously, the Spell Thief sucks. That is the MVP of the run, along with the Luxury Hammer. That is just such a huge damage increase. And this rather tiny damage increase was enough to carry us over the edge, along with the Shivas and the Merchant's Cart. That was a lot of damage from very regular, all-day items. but it felt fantastic. As I said, these abilities are all fantastic. None of them have any particularly large weak points or any particularly wonky playstyles or caveats you should know about them. They are just plain, fun, kind of, I'd say, medium difficulty to use abilities that can do absolutely any and everything you want them to do. That counts for each and every single one of them. I love all of them. You guys are awesome. But also you, dear viewer, are awesome. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time, you know how it is, you know how it goes. I wish you all a good morning, a good day, or a good night, wherever you are. And until next time, bye-bye!